You are now live on YouTube.
Thank you, Scott.
Okay. I'd like to bring the meeting to order, please. This meeting of the Board of Education on January 12th, 2023 at 6:00 p.m. If you are planning to attend via YouTube and would like to comment, please send your comment in writing to info@ltusd.org before 4:00 on the meeting date, and your comment will be read into the record. Trustee Heatherton, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Have mics on, guys, so that we can hear.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Dr. Cutler, would you take roll call?
Oh, yes, that's right. I didn't take roll this evening. President Mansfield,
I'm here, present.
Trustee Riley,
Present.
Trustee Turnbull, Trustee Kemper,
Present.
and Trustee Heatherton.
Present.
Great. Item number 2, adopt the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
I make a motion that we adopt the agenda.
Is there a second?
I will second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Nope. Motion passes. Item number 3, communication reports. Board member reports, limited to 5 minutes. Would anyone like to go first?
Sure, since it's
And I'm staring at you.
Okay,
Yeah.
since it's Board Appreciation Month, I would just like to say how much I appreciate working with this board. Every one of you have such a passion, a willingness to work together, a positive outlook, high goals. I just love this team. So thank
I
you
do
for
too.
being part of my team.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nice, very nice.
Trustee Kemper?
No report this month.
I'll give a little report. I started doing a little project. I mentioned it to Dr. Cutler. Looking into the community resources that are available for all the various things, substance abuse, everything for the students, everything. And I'm looking into making sure that the website or whatever, and trying to figure out how the students, the teachers, the community, and everyone can have easy access that they're not afraid to go to. So that's something I'm just starting to do on the side a little bit and feel that that's important so that our community can understand the importance of these things and help to raise and improve our district as a whole.
Excellent.
I really don't have a report, but I will give a high five to Trustee Turnbull. I do also agree that I really enjoy working with this board and the superintendent and the district office, and I see some good things on the horizon.
I also don't have much to report this week. I did read the EDCO article about our own Sophia Markin and the Mountain Democrat. It was good, but it didn't really show how awesome she is. And then also kind of going along with what John was talking about, well, more on information. The drugstore project is going to be April 4th this year. And it's an event sponsored by Seroptimist International of Tahoe Sierra, Tahoe Women's Community Fund, South Lake Tahoe Police Department, and City of South Lake Tahoe. And the organizers would love to have board members participate. And also high school staff and administration, just to kind of show our appreciation for what they do. And that's it. We don't have any student tonight. So Dr. Cutler, would you like your superintendent report?
Madam President, members of the board, good evening. And looking forward to this evening's meeting. I have a few things I just want to say. And first and foremost, I've done this before and several times, when we have snow days and the weather that we have, But it needs to continue to be said of how much our folks work to help us be ready to be in school. And how much effort's put forward to it. Just to talk about that is I know that a lot of folks don't understand that we have people out on the streets at 3 o'clock in the morning starting to clear. They clear all day. This Tuesday storm, interesting enough, we only had an inch or so on the ground when we made the decision to cancel. That's always a nerve-wracking piece for me, because it's like, what if it just stops? And we really could have students in school. And like I've expressed to you guys and the community previously, it's so important for me to have our students in school. It's not just about what a lot of folks think is about dollars and cents. Really, it's not that, because, we will make up 3 days for sure at the end of the year, and we will ask the state to waive any additional days, as we always have. But it's really about students getting to school for their learning, to engage with fellow students, for them to socially and emotionally be able to do the things that young people need to do, to get fed. And the work that goes into having our students in school is paramount. I had a few complaints about not canceling on Monday because of the extensive flooding. And I just want to let you know that we were in tune with our principals and our sites, and we did have some challenging areas out there, but we felt it was important to have students in school coming off of the holidays if we could, and we felt like it was a good decision. Tuesday was not a day for us to be in school. And I hate to say this, because once we say, okay, we're canceling, it's like, okay, please snow now, right? Because you don't want to be like, oh gosh, we were foolish, we canceled. But we got it right. Tuesday was a mess, and we could have gone to school on Wednesday, but I will tell you, those campuses weren't ready, and many of the roads weren't ready. And we're really trying to work hard with our partners in both the city, the county, and obviously Caltrans for the highways to be timely and to help us. But they weren't ready on Wednesday morning, and so I appreciate everybody's patience with that. One of the things that does also happen, and all of our team out there doing the work that they do and getting it cleared and working nonstop to get things done. When we send our buses out on the road, our intention's not for our buses to ever be late. And we've received some complaints about some late buses. And I just want to share that a lot of things happen out on the roads that aren't even the bus's fault, right? They're out, they're moving, and there's an accident, or there's that one-way street that somehow somebody's got to back up and somebody's got to get through. And it just happens that our buses are late. And it's not our intention to want to leave our students sitting out at the bus stops for, an inordinate amount of time. But unfortunately, sometimes things happen. And so we did have some buses late. And I apologize to all the parents and children that were stressed about that. I just wanted to say it sometimes happens. And we had some accidents that slowed down buses. We had some roads that slowed down buses. But our bus drivers do a lot of hard work. And I've always said this, I think education is one of the toughest professions, and being a teacher to teach all the students in their classes and to meet the needs of all students is really hard work. And I got to tell you, being a bus driver is hard work. Navigating this bus, that's this big yellow thing down the road that fills the road with students that hopefully are behaving, and navigating the traffic, and then in Tahoe, navigating the snow and all of the obstacles and the potholes that we are now facing and dealing with. So I stress that, man, we got an incredible team of people that are working so hard, and we're not going to ever be perfect, and I know that puts stress on families. If we're late, if their students are sitting out there cold and wet, it's not the intention. And we not always will be able to communicate that, because we don't know that accident happened. And when we do have information, we'll always try to get it out. So I just wanted to share that tonight. Again, really proud of our team, and man, we have some snow out there, and it looks as though more storms are coming. And I would just share this. I was on the Chamber of Commerce executive CEO meeting last Friday. And one of the folks from the hotel industry said, we really hope that the snow comes Monday through Wednesday. And I said, we really hope the snow comes on Saturday. And I was just, this conflicting interest, right? Because we want our students in school. I just would like to share that. Tonight on your consent agenda, you have a donation from Pay It Forward Project Fund for 4 bear boxes that'll be installed at the quad area at the high school. And I just want to do a shout out to them and their donation. So thank you very much for that. Wanted to let you know that tomorrow morning, myself, Beth Shepard and team will be presenting at the Community Health Advisory Committee. Thank you. The Community Health Advisory Committee. They asked me to be the speaker. I feel a little overwhelmed, really, because we're going to talk about all the things we do for the social, emotional, and mental health of our students. And there's a lot. And actually tonight, Beth will hit on some of that on her presentation. But one of the efforts that we're putting forth and why we wanted to present to them as well as others in pulling a presentation together is because I think it's a little confusing even for, Beth and I were just talking about this just a little while ago, for our own staff to know where to send students to go. And Trustee Heatherton, I think that was what you were asking about, you were talking about, right? So this presentation that Beth and team, I get, because of title, I'll be the starting presenter, if you will, but it's really Beth and team that have pulled this together to be able to start communicating what is it that actually the district's really doing and the efforts and the energy we're putting forward to health and wellness for our students. So get that opportunity tomorrow morning at 8. I just wanted to let you know that. And lastly, on my report this evening, we do have a board retreat this week, this Friday and Saturday. Looking forward to that. Just a highlight for you and any folks in the public that may want to be engaged with us. We are not going to do a YouTube, it's just in the retreat setting, we don't really have the system in place to make it effective and efficient. So welcome folks to the room during our retreat. But we're really going to focus on what are we doing on the educational side of the house? What are we working on at the business and budget side of the house? And then really getting focused on with the board, what are our goals and priorities and direction for the future? So that'll be much of the work over the next couple of days. And I look forward to doing that starting tomorrow at 12:30. And then moving into the evening tomorrow night, and then starting once up again on Saturday, going from 8 to maybe 1. Hopefully we'll be done before that on Saturday. So, and snow is coming. We do have a presenter that's supposed to make it over the mountain, which I spoke to today, and we're going to check in tomorrow. He may be on that big screen for us. Okay. That's my report tonight. Thank you. Yeah. Oops, Bernadette, I believe you, Bernadette Santana, CSEA.
Good evening, President Mansfield, board members, Dr. Cutler. I apologize for missing the last meeting in December, your organizational meeting, but I'm here tonight and I know it is Board Appreciation Month. And I just want to say on behalf of CSEA and our members, how much we appreciate all of you and the work that you do, and that we look forward to working with you through some challenges that we all know are coming. This year. We appreciate the openness, the communication with all of you and your presence at our school sites. Thank you so much. And like I say, we look forward to this year. Thanks.
I believe that is it this evening from our groups.
Say that again?
I'm sorry, our associations. I believe that's all we have this evening.
Item 4, public comment. If your comment is on the agenda, is an item that is not on the agenda, your name will be called at this time. If your comment is on an item that is on the agenda, your name will be called after the item is discussed and prior to the final action being taken, if any. Please limit your comment to 3 minutes or less. If there's more than one speaker on a particular topic, the board president may limit the comment to less than 3 minutes. No more than 20 minutes of public input will be taken on any one item. We appreciate your cooperation in helping us facilitate the timeliness of our meetings. Also, I would like to remind everyone that the Brown Act only allows the board to address items on the posted agenda. The board is listening and cares about your comments, but we cannot respond to any of them at this time. Dr. Cutler, are there any public comments?
Yes, Madam President, we have Emerson Ramirez.
I would also like to note that I'm here with Joel Edwards.
Hello, Madam President and the board. My name is Joel Edwards, and this is my associate Emerson Ramirez. Over the past month or so, we've been doing a project about mental health in our 11 English class. The subject of our project is about the modern effects that school can have on the adolescent mind, and how in some cases school can be a major hindrance to positive mental health, or vice versa, how negative mental health can be a major hindrance to performance in school.
We did a survey at the high school with about 300 responses from students grade 9 through 12, asking them what issues they had with mental health in regards to school and schoolwork. We saw a few major patterns from our data, these patterns being a general struggle with the amount of work given out by teachers, and also how the students did not feel like the school staff cared about their individual needs. Here are a few quotes we've taken from the response to our survey. This is one student said in response to what issues they see in how SCHS handles mental health. And I quote, "My biggest issue is that SCHS does not take our mental health seriously. I say this because when people talk about how stressful school is and how we feel mentally drained, it feels like the board laughs at us because they tend to push our mental health aside and it almost seems not even a concern for them." Another student went on to say that their biggest issue is stress, typically from homework and tests.
These two students are examples of the most common responses to our survey. When questioning students, they think that the school, what they think the school could do differently to better assist students with their mental health struggles, we saw two trends. I would like to quote the responses to that question from the same people who wrote the previous quotes. I think that the way they can help us is to be better educated on mental health, and also make them understand what we are going through. And quote, "be understanding and take into account that kids have lives outside of school."
We understand that the school is doing their best and this is a national issue, and the Wellness Center, it's a great resource. We definitely appreciate that. It is an amazing resource, but we have three main ideas that we see could help more outside of the mental health center. One is reduce the amount of work given outside of school. Students have lives, we have jobs, we have hobbies, responsibilities, and many other things going on in our lives that take priority over school on occasion. Educating staff on mental health in teens and the modern teenage mind. We know you train all staff on how to handle an emergency mental health situation such as suicide or domestic abuse, etc. But training them on how to handle the little things that pile up to cause so much more pain will go a long way. And third, to stop putting so much stress on passing or moving on to college. We all understand that college and higher education is important, but it's not the only path for students. And failing one class or one test isn't the end of the future for students, as many people, students, parents, board members, whatever, believe. Thank you for your time.
Very good. Nice job, young man. Thank you very much. And I just want to say that Ms. Shepard, our Director of Student Services, was taking notes, and obviously those are important thoughts and ideas, and specifically to your research on that. And again, as also we have Mr. Zanino, principal at the high school here. So and I was encouraged, but then I realized Mr. Zanino is here to meet with your leadership at the high school. So good job. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 4, which is my favorite item on the whole agenda, the student celebration, Lake Tahoe Environmental Science Magnet School, Principal Damerol.
Hello, Madam President, trustees, Dr. Cutler. Thank you very much for having us here today. I do want to say I was at the grocery store on Saturday, I think it was, and ran into some parents, and they said, although we love our kids, please have school on Monday. It was one. So I could stand here and talk until I'm blue in the face, which I've done many times. But we brought some students today to do the talking for us. We have 2 amazing 5th grade teachers at the magnet school. We have Franny Thorne and we have Maggie Fowl. And I'm going to turn this over to Maggie. She's going to introduce our students and then they'll have their presentation. Thank you.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us. You guys, why don't you stand up in order? Presentation. I just want to say, first and foremost, we are really proud of these students. Came back to school on Monday, connected about the presentation. We're gone Tuesday, Wednesday, worked really hard today. So you guys are in for a treat, and thank you parents for bringing these superheroes. You will notice they are dressed as superheroes. They are members of our kindness club as fifth graders at the magnet school. And in addition to wearing the capes, they are going to tell you all about what we do in our kindness club. So we have today, we have Emma Dross, Olive Offenbacher, McKenna Martinez, Riley File, and Camille Martinez. All right, I will let them take over. Thank you very much. And you can move the slide. Thank you. Next slide.
Next slide. Next slide.
Perfect.
Good evening. As Ms. Fowle stated, I'm Emma Dross. Our main mission in the Kindness Club is to create a safer, more welcoming environment. To achieve this goal, we host many activities such as reading to the lower grades and the buddy bench. Our school's monthly character traits give students the opportunity to work on building relationships and improving kindness skills. A very special thanks to Ms. T, the LTE SMS Kindness Club leader.
Next slide. Are we going next slide? Next slide.
As Ms. Fowle stated, I'm Olive Offenbacher, and each month we focus on a character trait to build relationships throughout the school year. In the first month of school, September, all of us students worked on building a growth mindset. Next, in October, we focused on safety and respect. In November, we worked on compassion. Last month, December, we worked on showing integrity. This month, all the students are working on leadership. Every focus we had relates to building relationships. The Kindness Club will often go up on the stage to show examples of the traits. For instance, in December, when LTE SMS was working on integrity, all the Kindness Club members sang a song about integrity. The Kindness Club even has members read to the lower grades, and others will help events at recess. At the end of the school year, we hope to have friends like this picture on the board.
Next slide.
Hello, my name is McKenna Martinez. 2 examples of how we promote kindness in our monthly character traits include reading to lower grades and launching the Buddy Bench. The idea of the Buddy Bench is to build friendships. The Buddy Bench was invented to prevent loneliness and bullying in schools. If a student doesn't have someone to play with, they can come to the bench and make a new friend. 5th graders can help the students make conversations and build friendships. Another activity we enjoy is reading to students in lower grades. We often read books about our trait of the month and about kindness. We often wear capes and masks during these times too. We hope students know they can come to us as leaders of the school. All these activities have made a pretty big impact on our elementary school community.
Next slide.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Riley File. This month in Kindness Club, we are focusing on leadership. Students ask, what can you do to show leadership? What does it mean? Does being a leader mean? Leadership means leading by example, being a role model, inspiring others, and lastly, helping others. We look forward to making skits, reading books, and using the Buddy Bench to show how to be a good leader.
Next slide.
Good afternoon. My name is Camille Martinez. We are very proud of what we have accomplished so far, but we still have many ideas moving forward. We would like to create and perform skits for lower grades demonstrating the monthly traits. We will continue reading inspirational quotes during morning announcements and improving the Buddy Bench program. Since our mission is to create a safer and more welcoming environment for all, we are all constantly looking for ways to spread our message. We hope each student feels that they can earn a certificate for the monthly trait and that they are an important member of our school community. Together, we can do anything. Next slide.
So thank you very much for letting the students present. You know, a couple other things that they do that they didn't talk about. On Fridays, they put on their capes and they come out front with me and welcome everybody to school when it's safe. Okay, I don't anticipate they'll be out there tomorrow because it'll be an ice skating rink. But they do that. They go down, work with the lower kids. They come in at the lunches with them. They just make sure everybody feels included. I do thank the parents. Thank you very much for your support and the teachers for their support. And really, this is the kids right here. Yeah, so thank you.
Very nice presentation, you guys.
Can
Super proud
I
of
ask
you.
the Kindness Club a couple questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if I am feeling down or feeling alone, how does the buddy bench work? Do I just go sit on it by myself, or are you guys there already waiting for someone to come?
Well, somebody will probably see them. The buddy bench could be in plain sight,
Okay.
and somebody would come over, talk to them, and make a conversation with them.
Okay. Next question. Can you guys talk to your principal and find out if you guys can maybe introduce this at the other schools?
Probably, yeah.
I think that'd be a great idea.
I think that's an amazing idea.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'd just like to make a comment. Anytime, and I want to give all you young ladies a compliment, that we can teach civility and kindness in our culture. It makes someone who's probably the oldest person in here. I'm going to be 70 years old. We need a kinder society. And I thank you for starting this. And I agree with my colleague over there. I would love to see this at every school, because when you respect and trust and care about other people, it just makes the rest of us feel really, really good. And I agree with President Mansfield. This is one of my favorite segments of the school board. And most importantly, I'm going to feel pretty gosh darn good when I'm driving home tonight. That's because of you guys, okay?
All right, very good. Students to come up here and get a picture, and actually, you know, teachers and Mr. Damerl as well. Come on up. You guys are all part of this. So here, let's get it. Okay. Come on. Sure.
That's fine, right? Oh, I'm gonna come over by yourself. No, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine. There you go.
Nice.
Thank you. I'm coming back. I'm coming back. We got parents here. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm right over here. Kindness. Yeah.
All right, good job.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, superheroes, thank you.
Go, that was good.
Nice job. Nice work. Thank you both. Thank you, guys.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to item 5, recognition. Dr. Cutler.
Madam President, thank you very much.
I love the capes and the little eye things. Yeah.
Madam President, members of the board, you know, that we absolutely love those types of presentations to the board. And it's a really wonderful example of what's going on out there in our school district with our students and our teachers and our staff and the wonderful things that happen. And, you know, I want to say this, that it all happens and starts in my mind right here in the boardroom with your leadership. And I know that a lot of folks may not understand that, but, you know, being a board member is a unsung job. It comes with a large commitment, a large responsibility, but not always thanked or appreciated. And I'm proud that we are celebrating the Scoreboard Recognition Month, in which is January. And so I have this little something I'd like to read. Lake Tahoe Unified School District is proud to join more than 1,000 local educational agencies in the state in recognizing the contributions of board members during School Board Recognition Month. Board members have worked tirelessly to support student learning and mental wellness in our district. Board members are elected representatives and a vital link between the school district and the community. The board sets the foundation and vision for the district, directs resources where they are most needed, and ensures accountability to the community by monitoring progress towards goals. Their end goal, of course, is to support and elevate student achievement. During this past year, the LTUSD Board of Trustees has worked to provide healthy and safe school environments, ensure high academic standards and equity-based improvements to educational programs, maintain a continuous focus on the social, emotional, and mental health of students and staff, support ongoing professional development of all staff members, as well as all members of our community, upgrade facilities and learning spaces with the goal of zero net energy, and make sound financial decisions to ensure financial security into our future. The Lake Tahoe Unified School District board members are Val Mansfield, Lori Kemper, Bonnie Turnbull, Larry Riley, John Heatherton. We salute our hardworking board members for their support of our students through the effective policies and for their continuing advocacy for more resources at the state level. Thank you, LTUSD Board of Education. Just a note, I engage with superintendents across the entire state. And I listen to the challenges and trials of the position of the superintendency, the hard work of moving school districts forward. And I also talk to the superintendents about the boards that they work with and work for. And I can't be more thankful for the board that I work with and work for. You guys have been hardworking, committed to be a good, effective governance team that cares about the product of what we do as a school system. All of that was stated here. And I just want to let you know that I'm proud to be able to work and serve you as a board.
That was very nice. Thank you very much. Item 6, educational services. This is a presentation. Dr. Reader.
Behind this glove and then all your nice words. All right. Good evening, Madam President and trustees. Thank you for your time tonight. I want to provide you with a brief informational update on our CalPADS data as well as dashboards. Next slide, please.
Next slide.
So first, California Longitudinal Pupil Achievement Data Systems, or CalPADS, was created in 2009 to help California meet federal funding requirements for the No Child Left Behind Act of 2001. CalPADS collects annual data around demographics, certificated staff, courses, and staff assignments throughout the year. This process is completed 3 times a year in December, February, and July. Each time they collect different data. Next slide, please. Here is a sample of the data maintained in CalPADS. The yellow highlighted chart represents this year's data, 22-23, while the orange highlighted chart represents 21-22 last year. As you can see, overall enrollment from last year to this year, it's about 10 students. Our socioeconomically disadvantaged is a little bit higher this year, and our English learners is just a little bit lower. You can also see the difference in the schools For example, you see that Tahoe Valley has the higher percentage of socioeconomically disadvantaged. You see that Bijou has the highest number of our English learners. And then you look at Lake Tahoe Environmental Science Magnet School or Joe School. They're one of the lower as far as their socioeconomically disadvantaged and their English learners. All right, next slide, please. So that is CalPADS in a nutshell. Next, I'd like to provide you with a brief update on the California School Dashboard. This is an online tool. The latest results just came out about a month ago. An online tool that shows how local educational agencies and schools are performing on state and local indicators in California's school accountability system. It was created to give families and the public a complete picture of what's happening in schools and districts. The dashboard's a component of the Local Control Funding Formula, or LCFF law, that was passed in 2013 that changed how California provides funding to public schools and holds local educational agencies accountable for student performance. The dashboard reports on 5 local indicators and 6 state indicators. There's an embedded link on your slide there if you wish to really explore LTUSD in more depth. And on your board agenda, I provide some links to provide further background information from the California Department of Education around dashboards. Next slide, please. This is a list of the, is that the next slide?
Yeah.
Punt.
Well, she just moved to the next slide. So there you go.
Okay. Dashboard reporting. Sorry, guys. Okay. This shows the dashboard reporting over the years. Next slide, please. Okay, and that there has been some variations in the reporting. Here, you see prior to the pandemic, we had these ratings where the arrow will point to the red or the orange, which is not what we want to see, or the green and the blue to the right, which is what we would want to see. Next slide, please. All right, this is what we can expect on the 2022 dashboard. Similar information, but just presented just a little bit differently. Next slide, please. Okay, so we don't have these gas gauge icons anymore. Instead, we have a new one. Next slide, please. Now it's more of a cell phone look of either very low or up to very high. Okay, next slide. Right. So next up, what I want to talk to you briefly about is the DAS waiver. What's that guy? I am sorry, guys. Okay. Okay, one change to 2022, the dashboard alternative schools status or waiver. And we have so many acronyms. I apologize, especially Trustee Heatherton. I'll make sure that I try and point all those out. Our only alternative school we have is Mount Talac. Previously, alternative schools had modified measures of accountability indicators. They now have the same measures as the traditional high schools. Next slide. Okay, assistance is available to districts and schools. They may qualify for assistance, differentiated assistance, or DA. Lake Tahoe Unified does qualify for differentiated assistance from our 2019 academic performance and college career percentages with some of our student groups. Additionally, our homeless students exceeded the chronic absenteeism and suspension rates in 2019. As a result, El Dorado County Office of Education pays for technical assistance for us. We are currently partnering with a group called the Core Improvement Academy and are really enjoying the experience. A district team of 8, including Ms. Shepard, Ms. Goldberg, Principals Harnett, Martinez, and DiPieri, along with Ms. Hart, our content area specialist, and myself are working on additional strategies and implementation to support our EL learners with our core improvement partners. And you'll hear more about that tomorrow. Additionally, as far as schools, they can also receive additional supports on the dashboard measures. Mount Talac was designated for support based on their 2019 dashboard results. Next slide, please. Okay, so here are the state indicators showing those 6 targets that they're looking for. With a brief description, there's a link there under detailed cut scores that would give you the exact numbers that would identify why somebody ended up as very high, very low, or medium. Okay, next slide. These are our local indicators. Now, these are, there's a local performance indicator guide below here that we take you through that, but we self-report on these. These structures are what we assess ourselves. And again, we're going to talk a little bit more about those in detail tomorrow. Next slide, please. Okay, so hopefully I've given you a little bit of background information to make these dashboard examples a little bit more meaningful for you. The first one, the top here, which shows California's dashboard for 2022, their number of students and so forth. You can see here that we're definitely below the overall socioeconomically disadvantaged of California, right about the same as English learners and foster youth. Next slide. I'm going to show you some examples of Lake Tahoe Unified, and you can see our academic performance of where we're at with our English language arts and our math, showing low, our English learner progress low compared to the state at medium, thanks to the leadership of Ms. Goldberg and the principals. That is a major focus for us under the LCAP. Next slide, please. Here, under academic engagement, we have chronic absenteeism and graduation rates. First, chronic absenteeism, you're seeing that across the state, we're very high as a result of our pandemic and quarantine and sick children. And we're slightly above the chronically absent at 34.8. And then the graduation rate being above the average, thanks in part to our Mr. Zanino and his team. Next slide, please. Okay, and then under conditions and climate, we track suspension rates, and we are about the same as the state and considered medium. Next slide, please. Okay. We also have slides for each of the schools. And so I'll go through these real quickly. If you'd like some more information, I can definitely share those with you. Okay, next slide. Starting with Bijou, you'll see there all of their indicators, state indicators, pointing out that their English learner progress is at medium. You're going to notice that most of our schools are low or very low. But our folks at Bijou are doing a wonderful job, in part to their two-way immersion program, and they're rated as a medium. Next slide. Lake Tahoe Environmental Science Magnet School, Mr. Dameral's school there, and his team are doing a great job with both academics and English language arts and mathematics based on their CAS tests for 3rd through 5th graders. Next slide, please. Here you have Sierra House Elementary, also doing a decent job with the English language arts and math, both rated at a medium. Next slide. This is our school, Tahoe Valley Elementary. Again, this is our school with the highest socioeconomically disadvantaged percentages. Next slide. Elevated Digital Learning Academy, a great option for many of our students. Next slide. South Tahoe Middle School, also rated at the medium for the English learner progress. And actually, they had the highest percentage of growth as far as their EL students. So hats off to those folks. Next slide. And South Tahoe High School, again, got a rating of very high in their graduation rate. Great job, South Tahoe High School. Next slide. I think that's farther is the Mount Talac Continuation High School and their data. Some of their data, they didn't have enough students to have a measurement there. All right, next slide. I appreciate your time. Thank you. Do you have any questions for me?
I have a question on, I think it's slide 16 on the dashboard academic performance comparing California and LTUSD. There were numbers underneath that said equity report and the numbers, I didn't understand what they were.
On slide 16.
Couple more down. No, one more.
Can I go peek on my?
It's before the academic engagement slide. So it says academic performance.
Are we looking at the California School Dashboard 2022?
Yeah.
And what was your specific question there?
And see those little numbers down below? The equity report? That's what I didn't understand. Because those little guys, what do they mean?
I have an idea, but I don't want to misquote that.
Well, so if you briefly look at it, and when you look at, so it says number of student groups in each level. So you can dig deeper on that right there, right? And so
Number of student groups, and that's why it varies.
each
Got
level,
it.
so it
Okay.
changes, right? So when you say,
See, that was really, really tiny print.
so
No
you,
wonder I
so you have, you have 6 right there on the suspension rate. That in that medium level, 6 different subgroups fell into that group.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
And when you're on the dashboard, then you can click on it and go deeper. So that's what's interesting about the dashboard. So you can have these overarching pages, right? And then you can go look, okay, oh, it says 2. Well, which 2 groups? Boom, and click on it. Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you.
You bet.
Any more questions for Dr. Cutler?
Dr. Cutler.
Yes.
Question, well, I guess just a general question. I mean, one of the things that that Dr. Reader pointed out was, the suspension rates and, like it stands out that Bijou and Principal Dameral's school have very low suspension rates, but Tahoe Valley and Sierra House Middle School and High School have, much higher suspension rates. And I'm just curious if what happens with that information, if, we drill down and figure out why and what's going on there.
So, when you look at specific schools and their data, number one, we'd want to look at over year to see if there's a trend. Maybe there was a blip year where we just had some things happen and we had maybe a student or a group of students that were just really struggling and we had to be managing those behaviors. But if year in and year out, we see that trend happening, then that's something that happens through their school improvement process, their SIPSA plan. And they take a look at that and address those issues that have shown over time that they need to put a focus in. That's also part of how the LCAP process happens as well, right? So we look closely at what are the trends of our system and where do we need to put support through the local control accountability plan. So that's how I would address your question at this point.
What is considered chronic absenteeism? My first meeting with that, I just want to understand a little bit better. Is it
Who misses 10% or more? So on a typical school
In a
year
school
of
year?
180 days,
okay?
if they missed 18 days or more, they're identified as chronically absent. So we had over a third of our students that
chronic
missed
family.
those. You look at what was going on though, and what the requirements were, as far as exposure to COVID and how many days they were required to be out of school. And so we definitely had some absenteeism challenges with that, or if they caught COVID, it would be chronically absent. Yeah.
Both very good questions as you think about how we navigate the data and what it means versus what we do about it. I mean, it's a wonderful thing about data
Right.
is that it gives you a picture. When you ask, so like if you say chronic absenteeism, well, so what does that mean?
I'm
Well, if you
thinking
think about
I'm
this-
thinking 2 days a week.
If you,
That'd be chronic to me.
well, so 180-day school year,
Yeah.
180-day school year. So that's where we get the 10% is 18 days. Break up the 2 semesters, it's like 9 days per term. Use that term. So, if you shake that out, you think about it, it's how,
Once every other week. kinda.
Yeah,
It's-
it's 1 day every other week.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, understand that through the process of excusing absences and doing all those pieces, there's accountability to that as well.
Certainly.
But I think you have to look at the state as well as our school district. Okay? Because if you go back and you just look at the last 2 years, the number of students who've missed, if you go 2021, it was 14.3%. However, last year, if you look at chronic absenteeism, as John's asking, it went all the way up to 30%. Okay? Then if you go to low income students, you had in 2021, 18% of them were not participating. They were considered chronic. Okay. That has gone up over 30%. Okay. And then if you go to English learners, you go from 15% in 2019, and then 2019, 2020, then go 2021, and it's 18%, or excuse me, it's 15% for English learners, but now it's up to 34%. So, but you got to put it in perspective. And I think John's point is a good point. This is our Achilles heel in the state of California. Okay. Now we can say that dang pandemic. Okay. But if you go back to prior to 2019, chronic absenteeism in California was on its rise. Okay. So what I would say as a board member, let's solve this. Let's find a way to get kids to school. And that has got to be a major goal. I mean, we're going to go listen to LCAP. We're going to do all this other stuff. But as a former teacher, if they're not in the classroom, it's really hard to teach them and then ask them to take a standardized test. And they've missed. And John, I got to be honest with you, missing over 10% of school time is a lot of time of missed classes. Okay. And so if you're talking in a 18-week period or, term or whatever, we used to call them semesters back, way back. That's almost once a week.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're probably
You
missing
can't
3
do that.
chapters or more.
Think about when you were in school, or I was in school, miss a day of math per week. Good luck.
Hey,
Yeah. So, Trustee Riley, as you've clearly pointed out, you made a comment about the LCAP. This is an incredible conversation. I think we can push forward to tomorrow because we're going to listen, we're going to have a presentation tomorrow around the LCAP and get your thoughts as that prelude to the work that our team will do, our LCAP task force throughout the spring to make any final revisions on a plan that's a 3rd-year plan for next year. But I think that the one thing I will say that can again forward our conversation tomorrow is that students want to have to come to school. We want to get them to want to come to school, right? They don't want to miss school. And to the public comments from our young men students at the high school, if they're stressed, stress is a piece of maybe not wanting to be at school, right? So there's lots of things that we need to be thinking about as we build out our plans, and our schooling is complex.
Well, I think it goes to the engagement with the community and as an education system, educate the community how important it is for the children to be at school for, safety, for, education, obviously, but just that whole consistency of message coming through. It has to start at the home. It has to be important to get to school.
Put another layer to that, just go across state lines. You miss 10% and you don't get credit. You have to go in front of a board.
And
You have to have
appeal.
extenuating circumstances why you missed that much time.
Well, there are definitely differences between the state of Nevada, state of California, and Dr. Reader and I definitely know those because we've been on both sides. But per this conversation, which is wonderful, I want you to bring this back out as we have conversations tomorrow. I really do, because I think it'd be very powerful for us.
You mind if I just share just a couple?
Yeah,
of minutes real
absolutely.
quickly? And Todd did put me on the task to figure this out and look for improvements. On a snow day, when principals and assistant principals and deans did not have to worry about lunch and supervision and everything else, we were able to pull together and had about an hour and a half meeting and just get their insight, guys, what's going on here? One thing is that maybe we've gotten a little lax on our practices of following up on attendance. You know, past 2 years, if you had sniffles, we wanted you staying home, and we told folks, stay home. Prior to that, it was kind of how sick really are you? You know, you have a sniffle, you can tough it out. You can come to school. And so we encourage folks to come. Prior to that, then we were telling them to go that. So we have to work with our nurses to figure out a happy medium there. The other thing that came up that the principals shared, especially at the secondary level, is we got really good at supporting and educating students virtually from a distance with our online educational system, our Canvas system. And so what we fear now is it may not be as valued to be at school on campus, because I can get my assignments on Canvas. I can do that virtually. I don't have to be at school. I can go skiing or I can do whatever. And so that was really insightful, what I learned from our principals. In that meeting earlier
I
this
can
week.
confer that message. Having 3 children in the district.
Gotcha.
If they, I've got a child that, will miss for some issues, and then he'll come home and he'll be, hey, did you get it? Yep, I got it. I'm already done. Didn't miss anything. I'm like, you did.
And let me encourage us to have this conversation as we move on to tomorrow. Really good stuff.
Thank you. Thank you.
So item 7, student services, Ms. Shepherd.
Good evening, Madam President Mansfield and Board of Trustees. Tonight, I'm going to share an information PowerPoint with you titled LTUSD Student Services Overview. I have been here just over 2 months, and what I have found already in place here in LTUSD is outstanding. So I am very excited to share my findings with you this evening. Next slide. Next slide.
There we go.
It is with great joy that I officially started my work here with Lake Tahoe Unified School District October 31st, 2022, as your new Director of Student Services and Tahoe Alpine SELPA. Prior to coming to LTUSD, under the amazing direction of my very good friend and respected colleague, Dr. Cullen, and her department team members, now mine, the Student Services Department was called Special Services, and the department's work had already expanded its profound and important work to exceed only serving students with disabilities who have active IEPs and 504 plans. So housed within what we call education services, under the expert leadership of Dr. Reader, the Student Services Department now has the department title or name that reflects the wider focus of what this amazing department has been doing and will continue to do for LTUSD and the SELPA, which is serving the whole student at all school sites within LTUSD and our SELPA. This slide is an overview that shares the major Dr. Cohen expansion areas of how student services support students, school teams, families, the community, and Alpine County. Next slide, please. The transformation of the Student Services Department has been an update or a refresh of the department to better align its work with the district's vision, mission, and collective work of navigating the path to success. Next slide. My official title is Director of Student Services and Tahoe Alpine SELPA, because under Dr. Cutler's leadership, LTUSD is the administrative unit for Alpine County schools and school district, as well as LTUSD as the SELPA lead or Special Education Local Plan Area Lead in the Alpine County, South Lake Tahoe region. The Tahoe Alpine SELPA's responsibilities are listed for your viewing on this slide. Next slide. An important requirement of the SELPA is to ensure that it follows the California Education Code of establishing and maintaining a Community Advisory Committee, or CAC. Our CAC goes above and beyond meeting education code requirements. Our CAC leadership participates in and partners with community agency and volunteer organizations to create events for our students with disabilities. And we have an amazing event that for students and their families this Saturday night, if the weather holds, skate night, that you are all invited to go to. Next slide. To meet the unique needs of the LTUSD schools and programs in our joint work to educate the whole student, Student Services has a robust roster of an all-star team. And on behalf of the department, I want to thank you for supporting this team with the allocation of your current funding. By investing in Student Services with the current allocation of this all-star staff team, Student Services is able to go beyond supporting student academic programming within LTUSD at every school site and within every LTUSD program. This all-star team roster reflects the staffing expertise and allocation that supports our LTUSD social emotional learning programs and services, our behavioral health programs and services, our mental health programs and services, our foster youth programs and services, our homeless student programs and services, our special education and 504 programs and services, and during a tridemic, the health and medical programs and services that are so very important to our students and to our community. Next slide. Now that you have seen a snapshot of the LTUSD All-Star Student Staff Services staff, it's time to see a snapshot of our district student services school site programs. This slide highlights the special education programming and services being offered by LTUSD by our school site at our school sites, as well as our staff to student ratios within our structured programs. Again, it is a nice time to thank you for supporting the funding of these people and this ratio. It follows the guidance of the California Department of Education. Next slide. March of 2020 is a month many of us remember with mixed feelings. That is the month that COVID officially placed most of our students and teachers in a systemic school placement called distance learning. This slide is an update of our LTUSD Student Services District Mental Health, Behavioral Health Programs and Service and social emotional learning programs. Parents, educators, and community members are still navigating post-COVID restrictions and how this period of time has impacted the mental and social emotional health of children, youth, and young adults enrolled in our schools. A post-COVID outcome for student services that I would like to draw your attention to is the creation of a new committee called the Social Emotional Learning and Behavioral Health Advisory Committee that Trustee Kemper will be a member. Thank you, Trustee Kemper. As well as Sydney Brackus from Mount Talac High School, who addressed the board during the December board meeting concerning her senior project and her interest in increasing student awareness and access to mental and behavioral health wellness programming, services, and supports. Next slide. Our amazing nursing staff team prior to and throughout COVID have continued to serve our students, families, staff, and community with amazing grace and care. Highlighted for you on this slide is some of the important work our nurses perform daily across the district. Also, I would like to draw your attention to bullet 4. Our nursing team assists with the health and medical accommodations needed by our students with medical needs so that these students are able to participate in their academic programming. Next slide. As you can see from this slide, meeting the unique needs of our students who qualify for infant and early childhood programs is complex and comprehensive. Yes, we have occupational therapy for infants and other outstanding programs that I look forward to sharing with you in future board meetings. Next slide. As of today, we have identified just under 70 students who qualify for McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Support Services from our LTUSD McKinney-Vento programming. These services that our McKinney-Vento coordinator, Amanda Hammond, performs daily with our school site administrators and school site teams is always a priority. But during cold, storming days, weeks, and now months like we are experiencing right now in South Lake Tahoe is truly long-term trauma prevention. Because by working strategically together with partner community agencies, we are finding our students shelter, food, clothing, and winter wear that includes coats, boots, hats, scarves, gloves, medical services, mental health services, transportation services, vocational and recreational services, and so much more, serving the whole student. My last big slide. The last student services programming slide I'm going to share with you tonight is a slide that lists what the MTSS systems of support is and several of the programs that move school site teams through the various levels of our systems of support. Literally, everything we do in student service in the student services department falls somewhere within our multi-tiered systems of support, including attendance and working with our administrators. Do you have any questions? Isn't it amazing what I found in place? Aren't you incredibly proud? Should I keep talking into the microphone with major dramaticness? Pretty awesome what's going on here. Any questions? Thank you for your time and for your funding.
I do have one comment for Dr. Cutler. I would take her notes because you're going to do a presentation tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
She's got some good stuff.
Oh, I think I'll
I've
just,
created his presentation with him for tomorrow. We're
hey,
good.
you know what, here's the thing is at the presentation tomorrow is going to be, and here's our experts, right? Because we do have an incredible group of people that are working really hard to do all these things. But thank you for the guidance. All right, appreciate that.
Okay, moving on to number 8, business services and operation. This is an information item about staffing ratios from Ms. Salazar.
Good evening, Madam President Mansfield and members of the board. Next slide. A staffing ratio is a ratio of staff or workforce in relation to another group. More specific to education, the staffing ratio is typically that of staff to the number of student enrollment. Staffing ratios are an invaluable objective tool for budgeting by ensuring adequate staffing based primarily on student enrollment, while at the same time promoting fiscal solvency. In return, adequate staffing enables the district to provide educational opportunities for the entire student population, as well as successfully support and achieve the business and operational needs of the district. Next slide. A draft of staffing ratios was initially presented in December 2020 to the Board of Education. Research and support for these are in part based on current staffing as well as other school district staffing ratios such as LA Unified. The ratios have been revised and applied to all staffing groups as a means to objectively steer the budgeting process. The primary basis for ratios is student enrollment, with the exception of custodial and maintenance, which is based on square footage. Grounds ratios are based on acreage, and mechanic ratios are based on number of vehicles and small engine equipment. The ratios have been organized under educational services and business operations. During the budget process, these ratios will be compared to current staffing levels and adjusted accordingly if feasible. It is acknowledged that full implementation of the ratios will occur gradually, but as discussed above, is financially necessary. A few items to be aware of. This document is meant to be a guide and as such is fluid and subject to change. Cost savings efforts may result in lower ratios than reflected above. Grant funding and LCAP priorities may also affect ratios. Next slide. The next steps include analysis of established ratios to current ratios during the FY 23-24 and future budget development, as well as continuing to refine the ratios. Are there any questions?
Go ahead.
You want me to? I just want to say, I think this is an important document. Okay. I would call it a living document that we have to relive constantly. Okay. In my sort of looking around and doing a little research on this, I asked someone who had quite a bit of knowledge about the high school. And I asked simply, when you started the 4x4, what was the ratio to student to teacher? And it was 32-1. Here, you've cut it down to 27. And I think most of us will agree that smaller class sizes, we want to believe will do a better job for education. And I think all of this is important because we can negotiate with STA, with other union members and so forth and so on to make sure that this is fair. And right now, as a document, I find it fair. Now, we may have some people that are not think maybe not, but we need this because we have no idea what's going to happen in the next 2 or 3 years. Student enrollment, teachers are retiring right and left. I see he's not here today, but Mr. Simmons sent out a thing about wanted to retire. I assume that was the golden handshake, correct?
That is our retirement incentive.
Yes, and that's to be February 1st. So with all of that and not understanding, I mean, I was listening to the last presentation. I hope everybody understands replacing special ed teachers when they retire or leave is very difficult. Okay. Then you put in the socioeconomic problems of living in South Lake Tahoe, and now you've really created a new problem to that too. So I just want to thank you for, I know how long this took. I mean, I know you had a document 2 years ago and you guys just added, but you looked at it, you looked at school districts. I looked at a bunch of school districts and we're pretty close to being right on from TK through high school as far as the numbers. Okay. I just want to compliment you.
Thank you.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to share is in, this, as was stated, this is a guide. It's flexible, it's fluid. A lot of work has been put into this, studying our current staffing, past staffing, budgetary abilities. We've looked at staffing ratios from other organizations. We've looked into other organizations. One of the things that I would tell you, and it's based on a conversation that I told our team, I said, let's dig deeper and really see if we can find, because we've done like, for example, there's organizations that say, okay, the right staffing for administration is. Why? Who comes out with that? Those are the administrative organizations. Like, we have a school boards organization, we have a superintendent's organization, right? They say you should staff to this number for administration. And then counseling organizations say you should staff to this number. And we have guidance, for example, Beth shared with you tonight, that specific guidance that comes from the state for what's the ratio should be for certain special needs classrooms, whether it's severe or moderate student levels, right? Disabilities. But interesting enough, I sent our team on a task. I said, okay, we've put this together. Besides LA Unified, because we know LA Unified has a document that we used 2 years ago when we put this together, I want to find another document. I know I created it in 2 other school districts, might not be available. And the answer to that was actually no other district has a document available that we could find like this. And I compliment the work of our team for digging through what should it be and where should we be with staffing. But I do stress it's a guide. And depending on, grant monies and depending on current situation, where if extreme budgetary constraints came, we would have higher ratios just to be able to manage. We believe that from our current structure of our state and the budgeting that we have, that we can, if we work to these numbers, we're strong financially and we're able to meet the needs of our students. And that, and we spent a lot of time working on that. So, by the way, this will come back to you tomorrow as an additional conversation. But, you know, if there's any specific questions, but we will have it for you to work through and to give some guidance moving forward.
Dr. Cutler, if I may add on just one thing, I know I spoke to our county office yesterday and was talking to them about these staffing ratios. And they were so incredibly impressed with having the ratios across all spectrums of staffing. They've asked us to actually present at one of the CFO meetings. And I know Mr. Simmons was contacting some districts yesterday, and when he was explaining what we were looking for and what we were doing, they asked for a copy of what we were doing. So it is something I think that is going to be very beneficial financially to a lot of different districts.
Yeah, and the last thing I would actually add to that is that, like, and Bernadette's here, and I appreciate her being, you know, we worked with her when we originally worked with this, and, you know, we'll sit back down with CSCA. Again, we wanted to make sure we had this ready for our conversations, not only tonight, but tomorrow, as well as we start working towards, because as the governor's budget comes out this month, proposed budget, we have to start really laying out what the future looks like.
Thank you. I just want to say, I think it is really helpful, and I commend the work, Andrea. So thank you. And I want to just appreciate that it's a guide, because I think we, for the most part, there's, you know, and I appreciate your presentation today where you explained sort of the basis for the different numbers, you know, whether it's how much ground there is to maintain for the groundskeeper, or how many, you know, kids are on buses. So I know there's a number of documents or reference, you know, that you've used to come up with the numbers. And the areas that I am most concerned about relate to really just our ability to connect with students. And so things like instructional aides and counselors, you know, like right now the counselors, it says 800 for elementary, and we've had some extra funding. So we have a counselor. I guess we don't have a counselor at every elementary school, but we're sharing them. But that's just an example of where, I don't know where those numbers came from exactly, that like a secondary school has one counselor per 400, but an elementary school has one counselor per 800. The times have changed, right? We've heard a lot about mental health and a lot about anxiety and stress, and just the notion that over time needs may shift, so that we may use a guide like this and find out, well, we have a higher need than what was the basis for the ratio, you know, to begin with.
Yeah, just so you're aware, the 400 is actually from a area of recommendation from the counseling groups and things, which have been driving lower. But during the Great Recession, those numbers crept up.
Sure.
Right. And so, like, those numbers of how many counselors per students, because of the way that the budgets were
Right.
Having to be just sliced and diced back in 08 and 09
Yeah.
and 10. But just so that we're really making it publicly clear, 2 years ago, we didn't have elementary counselors in our district at all. At all, right? So when we talk about a ratio for elementary counselors, we didn't even have any. So I want to just stress that we have to actually complement our commitment to this work, that before 2 years ago, there was no elementary counselors. And, you know, we've been applauded for having nursing at every one of our sites, but I've never seen a district be able to fund a nurse at every site like we do here. So, I mean, there's a give and take in regards to the budgetary restraints that you have. And so as we look at our district and we look at our numbers that we put down for nurses, we're looking at the tradition of our district and saying, okay, we can hold on to this, but we can't go more, and we may have to go less as we say that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to be really clear and making sure that you as a board understand, because someone says, oh gosh, we have to have more counseling. Great, but we have to make sure the budget works, right? And then if we say we need more counseling and the budget says, well, this are the numbers we have to work with, then we have to say, well, where do we then change the ratio elsewhere? And so I'm going to use that example. So if we say, well, you know what, we should have 401 with counseling. Well, in essence, we would add 2 more counselors at the elementary level. But then I'm going to tell you, we financially really, we've massaged this to look at how our system works now and how it can function effectively. And I'd say, well, then you're probably cutting probably 3 nurses, 2 nurses elsewhere, or you're going to have higher class sizes, or, you're going to give up something. And I'm going to tell you historically, because of the pressures of the system, and I'm just going to be really honest about this. And, folks, listen, what do you cut? You cut administration. And I got to tell you, cutting leadership has been proven to impact the success of a school district because you don't have the supports from the outside helping it go. So, because that's always been an answer, just cut the administration. Yeah, but you need the leadership and you need people to doing all the compliance work, and you need people taking care of all of the elements that happen outside of the class setting or the counselor's office. And people, unless they walk in our shoes as administration, but I'm just saying, because when you get into that conversation, and we should tomorrow, but I caution us a little bit, because when we start to say, well, we should just have a counselor at every school site, then the next part of the conversation is, then what are you going to cut? Right. And you always have to be aware of how that works. Right. I'm just giving that piece of that thought as we move into tomorrow.
I want to thank you and your team for putting this all together. And I think we have a great challenge ahead of us. It sounds as if we're going to be like leaders on this and being asked for direction on it. So being Mavericks comes with a lot of responsibility. And so we can't take that lightly, and we need to win this. So just throwing that out there to us.
Thank you.
I just see this as another reflection of how we've tried to systematize and create procedures and so forth across the district in all areas.
Great point. Thank you. Yeah. And then this is going to come out again tomorrow. I think we're gonna have some really good conversation in it. All right.
Okay. Are we ready for number 9? Consent agenda. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda? And do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, number 10. Consideration at future board meetings. Are there any items we would like to see on a future agenda?
That sounds like a topic for the next 2 days.
Point.
I really think that's absolutely true, right? Because we're going to dive into all areas.
Yeah. So then at 7:21 PM, I'd like to close the regular Board of Education meeting of January 12th, 2023.
And Mike's off.
An hour.
Thank you,
and
Scott.
22